2022.
Welcome back. And here are the highlights for the January-April period. St. Kitts and Nevis assumed the chairmanship of the Permanent Council of the Organization of American States, OAS. This came as the permanent representative of St. Kitts and Nevis to the OAS, H.E. Dr. Everson Hull, officially became the chairman of the OAS Permanent Council. A brief virtual inauguration ceremony was held on Monday, January 3rd, 2022, and he held that position until March 31st, 2022. H.E. Dr. Hull, in his maiden address, highlighted some of the key achievements of St. Kitts and Nevis in recent years, noting prior to the 2020 pandemic, St. Kitts and Nevis, the smallest sovereign state in the Western Hemisphere, acquitted itself with distinction. St. Kitts and Nevis served as the first of 5 successive CARICOM member chairs over the past 15 months, which is deemed as a unique opportunity for CARICOM to advance its collective interests at the OAS. St. Kitts and Nevis joined the 34-member state organization of American States on September 16, 1984. In police news, lawmen were investigated in an incident in which several persons entered the Federation via Nevis illegally on Sunday, January 2nd, on a vessel that ran aground at Bat Village. Later that same day, 17 nationals of Haiti, comprising 11 males, 4 females, and 2 juveniles, were taken into police custody and were in quarantine. The vessel, which did not bear a name, was also seized. In an update on the matter, according to a police statement, following an operation conducted on a home in Nelson Springs on Monday, January 3rd, an additional 7 persons, 2 nationals of St. Kitts and Nevis, and 5 nationals of Haiti, 2 of whom currently reside in the Federation, were also taken into custody and placed in quarantine. In late January, at his first monthly press conference for 2022, Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, announced that they will be repatriated.
They have been treated in as humane a way as we could. I'm advised that they were housed at Potworks, and I am to advise that based on the latest information that the Ministry of National Security in St. Kitts is indicating that they will be repatriated to their country, Haiti, on the 31st of January. It's a very unfortunate situation, but there was little that we could have done in the circumstances when persons arrive here illegally with no jobs and no means of sustaining themselves and to land illegally.
Thus, several persons from both St. Kitts and Nevis received a number of charges.
I'm told that some arrests have been made and that there may have also been some local persons who have been involved in the trafficking of humans. It is particularly given our history of slavery, where we were trafficked and brought here from Africa. It is, to me, a horrible, horrible thing for our people to engage in and to seek to extract money from individuals, to transport them illegally to other countries is a truly horrible practice and a criminal enterprise that we must seek to bring to an end.
Premier Mark Brantley. The charges included harboring a fugitive, harboring illegal immigrants, and illegal entry into the Federation. The People's Action Movement, PAM, celebrated its 57th anniversary in January. PAM is a political party in St. Kitts and Nevis. The party, which was one of 3 of the Team Unity Coalition, the others being the People's Labour Party, and the Concerned Citizens Movement out of Nevis held 4 of the 11 seats in the National Assembly. The party celebrated under the theme PAM 57, Keeping True to Our Vision. PAM was founded on January 19, 1965 by Mr. William Valentine Herbert. The High Command of the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force, RSCNPF, began an investigation into the incident that occurred on January 8, 2022 at the Last Stop Bar in Bird Rock, St. Kitts. According to a statement from the High Command, the police were in the process of gathering evidence, which included but not limited to conducting interviews, taking statements, and requesting reports. The incident involved former Minister Lindsay Grant. The RSCNPF said it was committed to the delivery of justice and assured the public that a thorough investigation was being undertaken to bring this matter to a just resolution. In a statement, Mr. Grant said, "While the video does not display the full extent of the incident that night, I do understand the position that I hold and regret how the circumstances have been portrayed, and I wish to assure the public and the police in particular that I fully support their efforts of the preservation of law and order." Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, who was a part of the federal government, expressed that he had seen videos pertaining to the incidents and made his stance clear. The rising cases of COVID-19 in St. Kitts and Nevis were influenced by the Omicron variant, which was milder than the original COVID-19 strain and other variants, including the Delta variant. Health authorities had identified the Lambda and Omicron variants as the 2 variants in circulation in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. The medical chief of staff said that the Delta variant had not had an impact to date. Dr. Cameron Wilkinson added, "When we had the quarantine period in place, there were 1 or 2 persons who tested positive while in quarantine for the Delta variant and recovered before they were released into the community." Most of the Omicron cases experienced mild symptoms provided that they were fully vaccinated. He encouraged nationals who had not yet done so to go out and accept the vaccine or booster shot if they were vaccinated more than 6 months ago. Paradise Beach Nevis took the top prize in the Best Villa Resort of the Year category at the 2021 Caribbean World Travel and Living Awards. The awards celebrated the best of the Caribbean, highlighting hotels, resorts, islands, and industry personnel that had exceeded expectations over the last year. The awards, which is run by Caribbean World Travel and Living magazine, were in their 27th year of marking the best of the Caribbean when it comes to travel and beyond. Other winners included Cocoa Reef in Tobago in the Super Resort of the Year category, and Sandals Resorts in the Premier All-Inclusive Luxury Resorts category. Paradise Beach Nevis scooped the top prize for its 13 exclusive luxury villas and beach houses that are completed with private pools and nestled along the western shoreline of the island. Montpelier Plantation and Beach Nevis was nominated for the 10 best Caribbean resorts list of USA Today. The contest was being promoted by the USA Today and gave voters 4 weeks to vote for the candidates of their choice. A person could vote once a day for the run of the contest. Based on information from the Nevis Tourism Authority, NTA, voting ended on Monday, February 14th, 2022, and the winners were announced on 10best.com on Friday, February 25th, 2022. Montpelier is a 300-year-old sugar plantation that embraces effortless luxury. The rooms, according to Inn's website, all offer stunning views of the sea or garden, and the private beach is complete with hammocks, cabanas, and a beach bar. The poolside restaurant Indigo lets you kick back and feel the island's rhythm. In police news, an autopsy was performed on the body of 57-year-old Victor Moses of Bellevue Mountain, St. Kitts on Wednesday, 19th January by resident pathologist Dr. Adrian Nunez. Dr. Nunez concluded that death was as a result of severe head injury due to gunshot wounds to the head. Circumstances are that his body was found by a relative on his farm at the aforementioned location. The police received the report of his death sometime after 7 p.m. on January 13th. Upon arrival, the officers observed the motionless body of Moses lying on the ground with gunshot wounds about the body. The district medical officer arrived at the scene and pronounced him dead. Investigations into the matter were ongoing. This was also the Federation's first homicide for 2022. Lawmen told the VOA Newsline that they were investigating an incident in which a young woman received a gunshot wound to the face. The incident occurred sometime after 7 p.m. on Tuesday, January 18th in Newton Ground, St. Kitts. A spokesperson for the police told the VOA Newsline the woman, who remains anonymous, was warded in stable condition at the JNF General Hospital. Mr. Devon Liburd was appointed as interim CEO of the Nevis Tourism Authority, NTA. According to information from the NIA, he took on his new role as Chief Executive Officer on Monday, January 24th. Mr. Liburd has over 2 decades of experience within the organization, where he has served as Director of Sales and Marketing since 2008. NTA quoted Mr. Liburd as saying, "It is an honor to help to continue sharing our culture with visitors all over the world." CEO at the time, Jide Yarde, departed on January 21st, 2022. The Nevis Tourism Authority, NTA, welcomed Mr. Christopher Parr, Editor-in-Chief of Pursuitis.com, to explore the island's finest offerings as part of its international public relations efforts. Pursuitis.com is an award-winning 5-star luxury travel and lifestyle blog showcasing luxury cars and drives, travel, and others. According to the NTA, Pursuitis is considered one of the most influential luxury blogs with a roster of international editors and guest contributors who have digitally curated a rich list detailing the world's best in travel, food, and style. In his article, Parr named Four Seasons Nevis as his favorite resort on the island, noting its stupendous golf and top-notch culinary experiences. For history buffs, he pointed to the Alexander Hamilton House and History Museum as a must-visit. Parr also recommended the beachfront Sunshine's Beach Bar and Grill for a laid-back lunch. In more national news,
we are letting parents know that school will reopen physically as was previously communicated. We are expecting that our students would attend school. If they are not feeling well, that parents keep them at home. If they have any flu-like symptoms, that they should remain at home. And should they come to school with flu-like symptoms, we will have to call parents to collect students.
That was Principal Education Officer on Nevis, Ms. Selena Claxton. Her remarks were in relation to the commencement of in-person learning for students. On Monday, January 24th, Ms. Claxton gave the VOA Newsline this comment regarding what took place in January.
Prior to the initial date for reopening of January 10th, we learned that schools would have to be delayed physically due to the upsurge of the numbers in the COVID-19 pandemic and the fact that there were so many viral infections being transmitted. And so in order to protect our students, our parents and the general community were alerted of the delayed physical start of school.
Ms. Sinella Claxton. And that's the month of January. We now move into February. St. Christopher and Nevis' Social Security Board had assets of more than $1.7 billion and grown more than $350 million over the past 5 years as at February 2022. That was according to former minister responsible for Social Security, Mr. Eugene Hamilton. He gave that information on January 30th as the board celebrated its 44th anniversary. Social Security is a compulsory insurance fund established by an Act of Parliament in 1977 that began operations on February 1st, 1978, taking over the National Provident Fund. It was basically a retirement savings scheme with limited other benefits. A male hiker was rescued after a cold rainy night on Lyamega's Crater Trail in St. Kitts. Circumstances were that on Saturday night, February 6th, forestry officer in the Department of Environment, Dr. Eric Brown, received a report from Mr. Charles Smithon, Director of Safety and Loss Prevention at Kittitian Hill. The forestry officer and the response team, in collaboration with hiking guide Mr. Tyrone Bell and Chinese personnel from the Ramada Hotel, where the guest was staying, embarked on a search for the missing hiker Mr. Lee. The initial search started at about 12:10 a.m., assessing the Crater Trail from Kittitian Hill and lasted until about 4:15 a.m. The rescue efforts were suspended because of unfavorable rain, cold, and foggy conditions. Efforts were resumed at first light and continued throughout the day with the collaboration of the security forces. Mr. Lee was successfully found in a deep ravine some distance off the trail. And that's it for the month of February. We now move into March. Member of the National COVID-19 Task Force and Medical Chief of Staff at the JNF Hospital, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, by March 3rd of this year, stated SKN had officially passed through a fourth surge of COVID-19 cases. More improvements needed within the civil service was the comment an activist on Nevis had used to express his displeasure at the level of professionalism and etiquette in the government service. The community advisor activist was Mr. Samuel Williams.
The powers that be needs to have refresher training and coaching seminars for all civil servants, especially frontline workers, on how to deal with their customers. Civil servants must also bear in mind that all customers are important, regardless of their social standing. Civil servants should avoid embarrassing a customer in public and disseminating both office and personal information publicly. When complaints are made, an officer legitimate fail or refuses to address the issue, but depending on who you are, businesses need to employ stronger managers who are not afraid to deal with their real issues.
Mr. Samuel Williams. That was the month of March. We now move into the month of April. Former Premier of Nevis, Ambassador Vance Emery, passed away on Saturday, April 2nd, 2022, at the age of 72 years, following a battle with cancer. Following a battle with a terminal illness in the UK. Mr. Emery served Nevis as Premier for 2 terms in the office between 1992 and 2006 and between 2013 and 2017. He also served as Senior Minister within the Team Unity Administration 2015 to 2020. The brainchild of Vance Emery was the Concerned Citizens Movement, CCM, which he was a founding member in 1987. And that's it for the period January to April. When we come back, Miss Shamika Budgeon will bring to you news from the period of May to August.
of Nevis, we know you have your personal as well as your business needs, and we're here to help. Our knowledgeable staff will work with you to help you achieve the financial success that you or your company needs in a competitive market. We offer solutions that make your banking experience easier, like our savings and checking accounts. Be sure to ask about our youth savers accounts and our Bank of Nevis Gold Club. We offer a wide range of personal loans, including mortgage, land, student, auto, and consumer loans. Have access to your funds instantly with our BeOnline internet banking and our debit and credit cards. We make international banking and investing easy. How's your business? Give it the leverage it really needs by letting the Bank of Nevis assist you with all the necessary funding for all your business expenses. It's that easy. What are you waiting for? The Bank of Nevis Limited, improving the quality of life.
Like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/The Bank of Nevis.
Welcome back, and here are the national stories for the months of May to August.
On Wednesday, 4th May, by the grace and power of God, through His Holy Spirit, I was ordained and consecrated a bishop in the Church of God and the 13th bishop of the Diocese of the Northeastern Caribbean and Aruba. For me, it was really heartening and encouraging to have a supportive contingent from Nevis, led by the Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, and included his cabinet, members of St. Paul's Anglican Church and St. James Anglican Church.
That was the voice of Dean Ernest Fleming speaking with the VON Newsline about a recent ceremony in light of his elevation to the position of bishop for the Diocese of the Northeastern Caribbean and Aruba Dineca. Dean Ernest Fleming is originally of Bansgut, Nevis. As the bishop, he will be responsible for teaching, governing, and sanctifying the faithful of his diocese, sharing these duties with the priests and deacons who serve under him. Meantime, Dean Fleming briefly expressed how he felt.
I feel humbled and grateful that God has so chosen me for this office, because I do feel that it's not that I am deserving of the position, but that God has so favored me to call me into the position.
Dean Ernest Fleming. St. Kitts and Nevis's fires are on the decline. The acting chief fire officer, Mr. Garfield Hodge, said in his address to the nation on International Firefighters Day on May 4th. Mr. Hodge said, and I quote, "As it relates to fire extinguishment, his department over the past year, in 2021, responded to and extinguished 603 fires. This reflected an 11.5% reduction when compared to 2020, which had a total of 682 fires reported and responded to." He also said that the St. Kitts and Nevis Fire and Rescue Services fights fire on two fronts: fire extinguishment and fire prevention. 2 weeks after the then Prime Minister's announcement, Dr. Timothy Harris, of a 10% increase on salaries for civil servants, step workers, and pensioners, Nevis's Premier and Minister of Finance announced that instead of that, those on Nevis will receive a 15% increase. In an address, the Honorable Mark Brantley gave this information about the change.
The Cabinet of the Nevis Island Administration, in an effort to avoid further significant borrowing at this time, has determined that with effect from the next payday, public servants and pensioners in Nevis shall receive a 5% increase in their salaries and wages, retroactive to January 1st, 2022. On January 1st, 2023, we shall give a further 5% increase to our public servants and pensioners. On January 1st, 2024, we shall give a further 5% increase to our public servants and pensioners. Put differently, on Nevis, our public servants and pensioners will receive salary and wage and pension increases of 15%, compounded over the period 2022 to 2024.
This approach, according to Mr. Brantley, will enable the NIA to better manage the increases and allow for better management of the finances of the government on May 16th. However, the increases will not be extended to cabinet members.
We are well aware that our non-established workers have long campaigned for greater security. Many have worked hard to serve Nevis, but because they were never appointed to the permanent establishments, walk away on retirement with a small gratuity, but no pension or other benefits. I am pleased to advise that the Cabinet of the Nevis Island Administration has put in place a 3-person auxiliary pension committee to finalize the pension policy for non-established workers of Nevis and provide urgent relief and greater security to them. The details of this policy will be shared shortly as we seek to finally bring relief to well over 1,000 non-established workers in Nevis.
In an effort to cushion the impact of the rising food prices globally, Mr. Brantley continued by saying,
effective Wednesday, May 18th, 2022, and lasting for the period from May 18th to August 31st, 2022, all customs duties on corned beef, pasta, sardines, tea, coffee, bacon, sausages and similar breakfast meats, cheese, chicken, milk, rice, flour, fruits, and meat shall be waived. We have ensured that customs duties on imported vegetables, imported pork, and imported fish remain so as to encourage our people to buy locally produced vegetables and pork and locally caught fish.
Additionally,
for our taxi drivers out there, the ministry will shortly be revising the existing taxi rates for the island of Nevis, which have been in place since 2007. And we shall be revising them after having several meetings with both taxi associations on Nevis. The old rates only had 2 reference points, the Vance Amory Airport and Charlestown. The new rates, however, will have 8 reference points across the island, which will make it much easier to apply rates between any 2 points on the island of Nevis.
That was Mr. Brantley speaking on May 26th. He mentioned that more information will be given shortly. But what about omnibus operators? Because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, prices on commodities such as gasoline have soared. On Nevis, a notice from the Bus Association stated, and I quote, there will be an increase in bus fares which would take effect from May 1st, 2022. The Premier had this to say on the matter.
The practice has been for the bus drivers to speak with the government. Why the bus drivers benefit from the government? They get, for example, I believe, things like brake pads and all that, they get those duty free. And so I have been surprised that the bus drivers apparently have acted unilaterally to impose an increase on the traveling public. The situation is difficult for all of us, not only for the bus drivers, but for small businesses generally and for people generally. So we really have been asking everybody to play their part. And we're not asking, of course, our bus drivers to run their businesses at a loss, but to understand that their passengers as well have come through the pandemic just like them, and they have to experience difficulties.
The Honorable Mac Brantley. And those were the highlights for the month of May 2022, and we now take a look at the top stories for the month of June. The 2022 Atlantic hurricane season officially began on Wednesday, June 1st. The season runs from June 1st to November 30th each year. AccuWeather's meteorologists had forecast another above-normal season in terms of tropical activity in the Atlantic, as well as a higher-than-normal chance that a major hurricane could make landfall in the mainland United States, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Additionally, 16 to 20 named storms, 6 to 8 hurricanes, and of those hurricanes, about 3 to 5 were forecast to reach major hurricane status, Category 3 or higher, with winds exceeding 111 miles per hour. The following list of names was used for this year's named storms: Alex, Bonnie, Colin, Danielle, Earl, Fiona, Gaston, Herman, Ian, Julia, Carl, Lisa, Martin, Nicole, Owen, Paula, Richard, Shari, Tobias, Virginie, and Walter. As part of efforts to mitigate the impact of rising food costs On the people of Nevis, Premier Minister of Finance, the Honorable Mac Brantley, led a team to a recent meeting with representatives from the 3 major supermarkets on the island to discuss the issue. The representatives were from Best Buy Supermarket, Rams Supermarket, and Horsford's Value Mart. Premier Brantley said the importers revealed that even with the NIA's relief measure to waive all custom duties on food, such as corned beef, pasta, sardines, etc., effective May 18, 2022, it would not put a hold on any significant reduction in the cost of food items. Mr. Brantley said the supermarkets made some recommendations which the NIA would have to carefully examine as the government continues to pursue efforts to provide relief to the buying public. Nevis's Montpelier Plantation Inn and Beach Club has been included in the Carib Journal's list of the 15 best luxury boutique hotels in the Caribbean for 2022. CaribJournal.com says this family-owned 19-room historic inn is set on a centuries-old sugar plantation and once hosted Princess Diana. It also states that Montpelier is the only one of Nevis's historic inns with its own beach club, joined by warm service, beautiful design, and mill privy. The stunning eatery set inside an 18th century sugar mill. Carib Journal is the world's largest website covering the Caribbean, with original content and video focusing on travel and tourism across the entire Caribbean basin. 16 students from St. Kitts Nevis graduated from Monroe College on Wednesday, June 15th. They are Tanya Bell James, Sudin Clark, Tariq Esdale, Carissa Halliday, Jamal Henry, Omar Hodge, Berth Lynn Jefferson, Shaletta Wilkinson Brown, Yadani Collins, Cromwell Henry, Nicole Henry, Carla Julius, Andre Mitchell, Colleen Morris, Brandon Powell, and Tonika Williams. The Caribbean Outreach Manager of Monroe is Miss Kimara Isaac.
I would like to congratulate the class of 2022 from St. Kitts and Nevis. So to you, I say congratulations to the Monroe College graduation class from St. Kitts and Nevis. What an impressive achievement. I am so proud of my fellow Kittitians and Nevisians. You emerged a winner for yourself, your families, and the communities that you will improve with your education. You persevered, dug deep, and got it done. Stay motivated, remain focused on your life goals. Keep the same energy as you go headfirst into the world and your careers. Sending you lots of love and well wishes.
The voice of Miss Kamara Isaac. As the voice of Nevis on Radio 860 AM was in celebratory mode in light of its 34th anniversary, one individual has dubbed the radio station as unique in its programming. Heavyweight panelist on the Let's Talk program, Mr. Edric Stanley, gave us more.
Vaughan Radio has occupied a very unique space in the broadcasting industry. It has been a stalwart in terms of its programming, specifically the school graduation program, the birthday greeting show, the morning inspiration program, and the whole 9 yards. Again, unique in its 34 years of programming. And it has served the country not only locally, regionally, but internationally. So we give congratulations to Vaughan Radio for its 34th anniversary. And in that regard, those of us who have contributed will always be there to contribute, especially the political aspect of Vaughan Radio's programming. I wish Vaughan Radio many more years of programming as an institution in broadcasting.
Mr. Edric Stanley. Back in 1988, history was made with the establishment of the island's first radio station on June 18th by BVI Nevision resident and founder of Vaughan Radio, Mr. Merritt Herbert, now deceased. As part of celebrations, Vaughan Radio provided flashbacks highlighting certain events that occurred throughout the past 34 years. Police confirmed to the VON Newsline that 2 bodies were found on Nevis on Monday, June 20th. A spokesperson for the Charleston Police Station told the VON Newsline that the first body was found at about 4:15 p.m. in the Montpelier Estate area in St. John's Parish, partially decomposed. The identity was not disclosed. Elsewhere, Guyanese national 39-year-old Godfrey Christopher was found dead in the Low Street area. And those were the main highlights for the month of June. We now move on to the month of July. Schools across St. Kitts and Nevis officially came to a close on Friday, July 1st. This as term 3 of the academic year 2021 to 2022 ended for students. Thus, the vacation period began. Students and parents and guardians and teachers, etc., experienced a year filled with challenges and adjustments. This was so because before the official start of the new school year, the Federation saw a surge in COVID-19 cases last year, and as a consequence, there were revised dates for the reopening of schools. Virtual classes and learning were also put in place. Adjustments were made and shift systems were put in place to have less contact with individuals at the schools. Eventually, those systems ended. Students were back in the classrooms with COVID-19 regulations in place. Sports events were held on Nevis in particular, which created a buzz for all. Though the term ended, students and parents prepared for the new school year 2022 to 2023. The academic year 2021 to 2022 began in September of last year. The ECCB, that's the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, has published its 2021 to 2022 annual report and statement of accounts for the financial year, which ended on March 31st, 2022. The report, which was published on June 30th, revealed that the bank recorded a net loss of $49.1 million for the year compared to a net profit of $25.2 million the previous financial year. A net loss is when total expenses, including taxes and fees, exceed the income or revenue produced for a given period of time. The net loss for the year was largely driven by losses on foreign investment securities, combined with a decline in interest income earned on foreign reserve assets, as interest rates globally remained at historically low levels over the year. After 46 years of being pegged to the US dollar at a fixed rate of EC $2.70 to US $1 on July 7th, 1976, the EC dollar remained strong. The governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, ECCB, Timothy N.J. Antwine, commented on the above mentioned and said, "The peg means 46 years of a stable EC dollar on which we can rely. The value today is the value tomorrow and the next day." In mid-July, the 2021-2022 population and housing census continued in St. Kitts and Nevis. The exercise on Nevis in particular, at that time, was almost complete. However, Nevis's Director of Statistics has told the VON Newsline that they have experienced challenges collating the data. Mrs. Doriel Truss Phillip gave us more.
We are at 90% complete. We still have 10% to go, and the problem we are encountering is that we still have some reluctant persons. Persons are still refusing to cooperate. So those are the persons we have been working on. So most of our enumerators are trying to wrap up, but these households that are still reluctant, one of our problems is that we keep not making contact with some persons. Some persons seems not to answer, or some persons are not at home. So we have gone over our scheduled time by 2 weeks, and so we are trying to see how fast we can wrap up this final 10% of enumerations.
The initial date for the completion of the census on Nevis was June 30th. When asked about a new date, Mrs. Truss Phillip said,
I will say for the field work, we are trying trying. We really want to wrap up all fieldwork by the end of this month so that we can start cleaning data to make preliminary count for Nevis. So we are really asking those persons who have not been enumerated to please comply with the enumerators.
And that's Director of Statistics here on Nevis, Mrs. Doriel Philip Truss. An unveiling ceremony to showcase a state for Alexander Hamilton was held at the Alexander Hamilton Museum in Charlestown. Alexander Hamilton was born on Nevis to a Nevisian mother and a Scottish father, who went on to reshape the American economy during his appointment as the first Secretary of the Treasury, and he is featured on the U.S. $10 bill. The statue is the only monument on the island which showcases Nevis's most famous son. In July, Director of the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society, Ms. Janelle Nisbet, spoke of the event.
It's on July 22nd. It's a Friday at 4 o'clock. I also just wanted to highlight some of the value of erecting this statue on Nevis. It is a symbolic representation of the ties between us and the U.S. and over the years we've benefited a lot from the relationship that blossomed from the fact that Hamilton was born here on Nevis. Through our partnership with the AHA Society, we've been able to receive funding for a number of activities such as the restoration of the Trot House, and that house now houses the Hamilton collection, and that attracts more visitors to the island, to the museum.
Still in the national news segment for the month of July.
In your name of all democracy lovers, I now declare that I have advised His Excellency the Governor General earlier this week that he should prepare for us to go to general elections in St. Kitts and Nevis on Friday the 5th of August 2023.
The then Prime Minister and current leader of the People's Labour Party PLP, the Honourable Dr. Timothy Harris. This he said at his party's rally on July 17th. In terms of parties contesting in the elections, they were PLP, the People's Action Movement PAM, the St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party SKNLP, the Concerned Citizens Movement CCM, the Nevis Reformation Party NRP, and the Moral Restoration Movement MRM. While announcing the date for nomination day, Prime Minister Harris declared that his team is prepared. As of Sunday, July 17th, there were no reported suspected, probable, or confirmed cases of monkeypox in the Federation. Monkeypox is a rare disease caused by an infection with the monkeypox virus, which is part of the same family of viruses as smallpox. It is rarely fatal. Symptoms were fever, chills, muscle aches, swollen lymph nodes, exhaustion, etc. 4 other CARICOM member states have been affected by the travel of infected individuals and their close contacts thus far. And Calypsonian Oscar Brown, alias Astro, beat out his other competitors in the C48 TDC Senior Kaisumanak on July 29th. Keith Dissendat took the first runner-up spot, and Andrew Nisbet, aka King Hollywood, who two-peated in the last 2 competitions and was the first king to do so in Culturama's history, took the second runner-up spot. Mr. Quania Jeffers was crowned Culturama 48 Swimwear Queen, and Mr. Rocco Brown took the crown in the Mr. Cool contest. And here's where we end the highlights for the month of July, and we now present you the month of August. Former Prime Minister and former leader of the St. Kitts Labour Party SKNLP, Dr. Denzil Douglas, had debunked reports of a rift within the leadership of the party ahead of the August 5th polls, expressing his support for leaders, Dr. Terence Drew. We went through a period of transition of leadership, and Dr. Drew has emerged as the leader among those who contested, said Dr. Douglas, who served as party leader for 33 years and the Prime Minister for 20 years before stepping down last year. Dr. Douglas, while on a local radio program, stated he had no intention of following his former prime ministerial colleagues, Grenada's Dr. Keith Mitchell and St. Vincent's Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, in holding on to the leadership of their respective parties. A report was made of a fire at the electoral office in Bastille on Thursday night, August 4th, the night before the August 5th general elections, which turned out to be false, according to the supervisor of elections, Mr. Elvin Bailey. The Fire and Rescue Services responded to a call that there was a fire or the smell of fire in the vicinity of the electoral office, but upon the arrival and subsequent investigations, they concluded that there was no fire and therefore no need for alarm or hysteria among the population. This occurred on the eve of the country's general elections. Furthermore, the VOA Newsline was in receipt of videos making the rounds on social media of the alleged incident. However, sources close to the VOA Newsline revealed that fire was indeed fake. The St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party SKNLP, however, won the federal general elections, winning 6 of the 11 contested seats at the August 5th general elections in St. Kitts and Nevis. And that concludes the stories for the months of May to August for 2022. When we come back, Mr. Jarvis Brown will present you the highlights for September through December.
Fresh Look Paint and Tile Sale. Give your home a fresh look with a fresh coat of paint and a fresh set of tiles. From Horswood's Building and Nevis Center's 25% off Fresh Look Paints and Tile Sales event. Yes, come to Horswood's Building and Nevis Centers today and get fresh savings of 25% off all paints and tiles store-wide. Come and give your home a fresh new look with fresh savings and fresh new colors. Fresh new piles of tiles in all styles with a fresh 25% off store-wide on all paints and tiles at Horswood's Building and Nevis Center. Give your home a fresh start with a fresh new look with fresh new colors, fresh new piles of tiles in all styles, and fresh quality paint at Horswood's Building and Nevis Center. Fresh Look 25% off paints and tiles sales event. See store for details.
Welcome back, and here are the highlights for the period September to December 2022.
We are ready. We are ready to govern again. We have set Tuesday, the 26th of July, as nomination day. The People's Labour Party shall return victorious.
We do apologize for the absence of that clip, but the story indicates that Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, spoke on August 30th. He made an announcement of a policy being organized for the workers on May 16th pertaining to a retirement package for non-established workers. Since then, an auxiliary pension committee was put in place to create a pension policy for the 1,000 non-established NE or government auxiliary employees or GAEs in Nevis. This was implemented, according to Mr. Brantley, because NE workers have long campaigned for greater security. NE workers were not entitled to pension or other benefits. According to the Minister Brantley, who is also the Minister of Finance here in Nevis, he spoke of holiday pay among other things for the NE or GAE workers. Still in the national news, under the chairmanship of Prime Minister the Honourable Dr. Terence Jew, the Cabinet of Ministers met on August 29th and discussed several matters of national importance to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. One of them is the use of marijuana. Under the then Team Unity-led administration, a National Marijuana Commission was put in place to bring recommendations as to how the government may deal with the marijuana issue. The Commission began its work on October 2017 and presented its report on January 10, 2019. Here is Cabinet Secretary Dr. Marcus Natter.
The Cabinet has decided to take the following steps with respect to the marijuana issue: to review the laws decriminalizing possession and cultivation of certain quantities of marijuana in the Federation, to initiate the long-anticipated medical marijuana industry to create entrepreneurs, economic activity, and to diversify the Federation's tourism product, to table legislation to permit the court to expunge the criminal records of persons convicted in the past of minor marijuana-related offences, and to instruct the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force to respect the current cannabis-related laws and the constitutional rights declared in the May 2019 decision of the High Court in Ras Sankofa Maccabee versus the Commissioner of Police and the Attorney General.
That was Dr. Marcus Natter. In 2019, St. Kitts and Nevis' High Court Judge, His Lordship the Honourable Eddie Ventos, ruled that users of marijuana have the right to smoke in the privacy of their homes. Governor of the ECCB, Mr. Timothy Antoine, has advised that there are no immediate plans to make changes to the EC Parliament notes and coins. This comes on the heels of the death of Queen Elizabeth II on September 8, 2022. Mr. Timothy Antoine, while in an interview on ECCB Connect's YouTube channel, explained the status of the EC currency.
Nothing happens right now. The fact of the matter is that we have 3 to 4 years of inventory or stock of these beautiful Parliament notes, and we plan to use them. So you will see no change in respect of your notes and coins for the time being. Absolutely no change.
However, the passing of the Queen raises the question as to what is next. Governor Antoine gave this comment.
We will need to have a conversation in our region about what we want to do, where we want to take our currency, what image we want. I can tell you there are a lot of people who feel that it's time for us to move in a different direction, and that rather than continue with the British sovereign, that we should be using our own landmarks and our own heroes. So I look forward to that discussion, and we in time will obviously make some determination and make some announcements, but there's no imminent announcement. The notes that you have, we will continue to use. We have a lot in stock, and let's be honest, I mean, we have great leaders like Sir Arthur Lewis and Sir Dwight Venner who are on our currency. They've passed, but the legacy lives on. They are on our currency and they will remain on our currency.
That was Mr. Timothy Antoine. Our Prime Minister, who shares my passion, has therefore instructed me to swiftly implement the Integrity in Public Life Act, the Freedom of Information Act, and the brand new Anti-Corruption Act, with the words from SKN's Attorney General, the Honourable Garth Wilkin. This comes following his belief that public office must be influenced by good ethical behaviour. He said that the administration of the Honourable Dr. Terence Jew takes the matter of integrity in public life seriously. The Minister of Justice and Legal Affairs added, "I believe in integrity in public life unashamedly. We must do better and be better rather. Too many people in the system abuse the system." Meanwhile, the Attorney General announced that the Attorney General's office have already begun formulating plans for St. Kitts and Nevis to become a republic. He was quoted as saying, "Our Prime Minister, the Honourable Dr. Terence Jew, announced in his Independence Day message that it is time our Federation becomes fully and truly independent." On his instructions, the chambers began formulating the plan. This is Prime Minister Jew.
I will confess, we are not totally free yet. As a small island nation, we depend on many partners internationally and regionally. But we are on a path of continuous improvement for our people and our country. Our nation is much closer to true independence than not. As we approach 40 years as an independent nation in 2023, we also set our eyes on transitioning into a republic.
That was Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew. A republic is a state in which supreme power is held by the people and their elected representatives, and which has an elected or nominated president rather than a monarch. St. Kitts and Nevis is among 6 countries that have signaled their intentions to become a republic. St. Kitts and Nevis was among 5 other Caribbean countries that participated in the inaugural Miss Cricket Carnival pageant in Guyana. 6 enchanting Caribbean women vied for the Miss Cricket Carnival title on Monday evening, September 26th, representing their respective nations. Guyana hosted the finals of the Hero Caribbean Premier League CPL, and as part of the celebration, the pageant was held. Representing St. Kitts and Nevis was Nivision Chalisa Paris, Jamaica, Tyra Spalding, Barbados, Bethany Payne, Trinidad and Tobago, Melanie Lawrence, Claire Marissa for St. Lucia, and from Guyana, Amel Griffith. In the end, Miss Guyana won the coveted title of Miss Cricket Carnival Queen. She also won the categories of Best Talent, Best Evening Gown, and Miss Cricket Carnival People's Choice Award. Situation reports of SKN's COVID-19 cases will be posted on a weekly basis on the government's website at covid19.gov.kn website with immediate effect, so says a release from the Office of the Chief Medical Officer, CMO. Since the start of the pandemic, the health authorities in St. Kitts and Nevis have been keeping the general public apprised of the virus spread with daily situation reports and were producing daily reports on the vaccination coverage once a vaccine became available to the public. However, the release mentioned the virus is now endemic and we have a high population threshold of immunity through a combination of vaccination and infection. And those were the highlights for September 2022. Now we move on to October 2022. Nevis's 2022 Culturama Queen Miss Chalisa Paris officially relinquished her duties as Miss Culture 2022-2023. Miss Paris represented the Federation at the recent Miss Cricket Carnival pageant in Guyana. She stated on Facebook, and I quote, on Monday 26 September, I made a desperate try to put a stop to naysayers despite numerous warning words from my chaperones, end of quote. She added, but all of that was in my head was this could be a chance at redemption with complete disregard for my health. She said, in that regard, I officially relinquish my duties as your Miss Culture 2022-2023 and wish all the best to the incoming Queen representative. The outgoing Culturama Queen apologized to St. Kitts and Nevis for that problematic representation of who we are, and the Nevis Culturama Festival who all sternly advised against and did not authorize this solo movement. On July 31st, Chalisa Paris was crowned Miss Bank of Nevis Culture Queen 2022, amassing 884 points. Miss Shamali Newton placed first runner-up with 883 points, and thus she was eventually crowned the Queen for 2022-2023. Nevis's Four Seasons Resort and Montpelier Plantation and Beach Club were ranked in Condé Nast Traveler's Top 40 Resorts in the Caribbean Islands Reader's Choice Awards 2022. Condé Nast is a global media company that produces some of the world's leading print, digital, video and social brands. Four Seasons Resort Nevis ranked 31 with a score of 91.43, while Montpelier ranked 40 with a score of 90.19. The Nevis Tourism Authority NTA congratulated Four Seasons Resort Nevis and Montpelier Plantation Inn and Beach Club on the achievements. In more national news,
unfortunately, we have detected some cases of hand, foot and mouth disease on the island of Nevis. I'm told that we have had 30 reported cases in the past few days. We have had 3 daycare centers, 2 preschools and 4 primary schools affected by this hand, foot and mouth disease.
That was Premier of Nevis and Senior Minister of Health at the time, the Honorable Mark Brantley. This was announced on October 6th. In the wake of the announcement, the Ministry of Health and Gender Affairs Nevis stated there is no need for panic or alarm. Hand, foot and mouth disease, or HFMD, is a common disease caused by a virus that is spread by fecal contaminated hands, coughing, sneezing, saliva and fluid from blisters or scabs and contaminated objects and surfaces. The last outbreak was in 2017. A 3-year-old boy was fatally wounded during a dog attack in Gingerland, Nevis, police say. The police received a report sometime after 2 p.m. on October 5th that the dog had attacked the child. Investigations revealed that the child was at home with family members at the time of the incident, and a press release from lawmen stated he made his way to the back of the house where several dogs were kept chained next to the dog houses. One of the dogs attacked the child, causing serious injuries to several parts of his body. He was later discovered by a family member and transported to the Alexandra Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. The half-breed pit bull dog was destroyed by the police. An autopsy was performed on the body of the 3-year-old, which mentioned that death was a consequence of severe injuries to the face and neck as a result of a dog attack. Still in the national news, a joint statement from the St. Kitts and Nevis Customs and Excise Department, the Police Force and the St. Kitts and Nevis Defence Force disclosed that the recent seizure of cocaine and cannabis at Bird Rock, St. Kitts is worth over 71 million EC dollars, or over US $26 million. On October 4th, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 2 p.m., members of the St. Kitts and Nevis Customs Enforcement Division, the Anti-Narcotics Unit of the Police Force, and the ESCA NDF's Coast Guard Operational Division conducted a joint operation at the Deepwater Harbour Port in Bird Rock, Basseterre, which involved searching the cargo vessel MV Elizabeth C. The vessel is registered in Trinidad and Tobago with the International Maritime Organization IMO number 8894574. The last port of departure prior to arriving at the port in Basseterre was St. Vincent and the Grenadines. 32 bales of white substance were found, which was suspected to be cocaine. Additional to that seizure was a quantity of compressed vegetable material in transparent vacuum-sealed bags, which were also found and are suspected to be cannabis sativa concealed within the walls of the cabin of the vessel. There were 800 kilograms of suspected cocaine in total, and there were 16 transparent vacuum plastic bags with a total weight of 5.83 kilograms of suspected cannabis. A new local television show dubbed Let's Do This saw its first episode between late September and early October. The program was launched in July. The show, put on by Moent Ministry of Entrepreneurship, Entertainment and the Town, is similar to a popular US TV show where participants pitch their business or business idea to multiple investors. If an investor is interested in the entrepreneur's pitch, she or he will say the catchphrase, "Let's do this." This will give the participant an opportunity to gain a minimum investment of EC $10,000. Participants must undergo 5 weeks of training before appearing on the show. The island of Nevis was the runner-up in the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association CHTA recently held awards. CHTA announced the winners of its new 2022 Destination Resilience and Caribbean Hotel Industry Exchange Forum or Chief Awards on October 3rd. Top resilience honors were awarded to Grenada, and the Nevis Tourism Authority, in light of the news, said we are honored to be named the runner-up. Deputy Prime Minister and Federal Minister of Education Dr. Jeffrey Hanley said on October 4th that the ministry is ready to begin work on the new Basseterre High School and the Joshua Obadiah Williams Primary School. As previously mentioned by Minister Hanley, the Ministry of Education will be moving forward with building the new Basseterre High School. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Education also embarked on an island-wide school rehabilitation project at that time in October. Still in the month of October, the police were investigating an incident that occurred at a residence at Ramsbury-Craddock Road in which 2 individuals were fatally wounded and another was seriously injured. Sometime after 1 p.m. on October 10th, the police responded to a report that someone's house at Ramsbury-Craddock Road was on fire and that an individual was inside. Upon their arrival at the scene, fire and rescue officers were extinguishing a fire which engulfed the house. A police communique said once the fire was extinguished, lawmen conducted a search of the structure. Inside, they discovered the burnt body of a female lying in the living room and the body of a male lying in the bathroom. The male was identified as 37-year-old Stanford Azor, a national of Guyana, who resided at a separate residence at Ramsbury-Craddock Road. The police used DNA samples to positively ascertain the identity of the female. Work was expected to commence shortly on Phase 2 of the Island Main Road Rehabilitation and Safety Improvement Project. This as the NIA signed a multi-million-dollar project with Surrey Paving and Aggregate Company Caribbean Limited on October 14th. The contract covers 1.5 kilometers of road from Cliff Dwellers Estate to the Nisbets Bridge and 0.9 kilometers of road from Shaw's Road to Nisbet Plantation. Frontline workers or essential workers were rewarded for services provided to citizens and residents during the COVID-19 pandemic by way of a one-time payment of an EC $2,000 honorarium. This came on the heels of the Federal Cabinet of Ministers approving the payment. Frontline workers who were working throughout the COVID-19 pandemic were recipients of the $2,000 honorarium. However, the Office of the Premier within the NIA issued a statement following that announcement regarding the payment of the honorarium to frontline workers on the island. The statement mentioned that the NIA has been made aware through media reports of the decision of the Federal Cabinet to pay an honorarium to frontline workers in St. Kitts. In addition, the 24-hour time frame of the media reports did not allow the NIA the opportunity to determine the complete list of eligible workers. Later on, the NIA eventually paid the frontline workers a $2,000 honorarium. Join the fight one step at a time was the theme for Pink Lily Cancer Care's annual walk held on Nevis on October 22nd from Chickenstone and ended at Penny's Beach. Chairperson is Miss Tracy Paris.
On the day, on Saturday, we had approximately 180 plus walked with us on Saturday, so I'm pleased. Every year the numbers getting bigger. We had one year where we had like 400. I'm hoping that one of these years we will get back up to those figures, because I'm always grateful for people making donations, but I always love to see the actual people coming out.
That was Miss Tracy Paris, and that concludes the month of October. We now move on to November. One bill that was introduced in the National Assembly at a sitting on November 4th is the Domestic Violence Amendment Bill 2022. This came following recent domestic violence incidents in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. The aim of the bill is to make urgent changes to protect victims and provide them with swift access to justice. Still in the month of November, Christmas in the Caribbean was showcased in the United States of America, and it is a romantic comedy shot in St. Kitts and Nevis, starring British actress Elizabeth Hurley and directed by MSR Media's producer Philip Martinez. MSR Media is a UK-based boutique film and TV production company. Since coming to the Federation about 18 months ago, MSR Media has produced several films including 1 Year Off, Assailant, Christmas in the Caribbean, Or Saw Them, and A Week in Paradise, which was released worldwide on February 14th. The shareholders of the St. Kitts and Nevis Anguilla National Bank Limited elected a slate of 8 new directors to serve on the board of directors of the bank at a general meeting held earlier this year, the bank stated. NASPA, that's the Nevis and Seaports Authority, celebrated its 25th anniversary this year with a month of activities. Chief Operations Officer Shelley Weeks gave the VOA Newsline this brief history.
The Nevis and Seaport Authority was established, especially for the Act. The Act was established in 1995, and it commenced its operations in November 1st, 1997. And the first general manager was the late James Bowen.
That was Shelley Weeks. Nevis's Premier, the Honourable Mark Brantley, has asked the Governor-General, Sir Esther Bitapley Seaton, to dissolve the Nevis Island Assembly, thus paving the way for the next Nevis Island Assembly elections. Here is Mr. Brantley.
I have advised His Excellency the Governor-General, after consultation with the Honorable Prime Minister, that the Nevis Island Assembly should be dissolved as of Friday the 25th day of November 2022. Nomination day for the election of representatives to the Nevis Island Assembly shall be Monday, December 5th, 2022.
Mr. Brantley mentioned the date for elections.
Election day on the island of Nevis shall be Monday, December 12th, 2022. In this election, you will have a clear choice between a solid record of performance of your CCM government and the promises being made by the other side. I believe that our record has been an exceptional one, despite the grave challenges.
That was Premier of Nevis, the Honourable Mark Brantley, and that concludes the highlights for the month of November. We now move on to December 2022. Prime Minister Terence Drew and Leader of the Opposition Mark Brantley have moved to replace electoral commissioners who resigned on December 1st and the 2nd. Attorneys at Law Jason Hamilton and O'Grenville Brown resigned as electoral commissioners by letters addressed to the Governor General dated December 1st and 2nd, 2022 respectively, and thus the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition were notified by the Governor General's office, a release from the federal government says. The Prime Minister thanked the two outgoing electoral commissioners for their service to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. The new electoral commissioners-elect will shortly take office. The chairman of the Electoral Commission, Attorney at Law Nasiba Butler, remains in his post. The Honourable Nevis will yet again be the featured location of a newly released film. Lionsgate recently released MSR Media's film 1 Year Off. Following the release of the romantic comedy Christmas in Paradise, the new film was described by its production company as being a great romantic comedy where old friends reunite in an inherited beachfront house on the magical Caribbean island of Nevis. The film is also set to display the scenery and welcoming people of Nevis, with scenes filmed at the iconic Golden Rock Inn and the captivating Crishy Beach Club. As election day drawed near, the three political parties taking part continued in their campaigns. Monday, December 5th, saw a campaign meeting from the Nevis Reformation Party in Brickhill Village. The party's leader, Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, spoke during the meeting and had this to say.
I'm saying, when you have leaders, representatives who continue to put self above country, who continue to see self-advancement while the country continues to decline, when you have that type of leadership, the country is not going to advance. And so the question must be asked. We see the representatives around us getting richer and richer. And ask yourself, are you in a better position now than you were before they came into government?
Meanwhile, the Concerned Citizens Movement CCM campaigned in Cotton Ground that same evening. Premier and leader of the CCM, Dr. The Honourable Mark Brantley, that's the Honourable Dr. Mark Brantley, during his message says his party remains honest.
I am simply saying that whilst we are not perfect and the government is not perfect, we believe in being honest with the people. And if something can happen, we tell you it can happen. If we have had difficulties, we come and we tell you we have had difficulties. I don't understand a party that wants to lead the island of Nevis and everything that comes out of their mouth is a lie. It means you can't trust them. You can't trust anything they tell you.
That was the Honourable Mark Brantley. In terms of the Nevis Island Assembly elections, the Concerned Citizens Movement CCM has once again won the 2022 Nevis Island Assembly elections in what has been dubbed a tight race, and also means the party took the helm of government. Several voters told the VOA Newsland that the December 12th elections can go either way, as the three political parties, that's namely the Nevis Reformation Party NRP, the Moral Restoration Movement MRM, and the Concerned Citizens Movement, had a slate of candidates mostly made up of women, that's the NRP in particular. The CCM won 3 out of the 5 seats, while the NRP won 2. In other news, an inaugural payment of a CBI dividend to contributors to the Social Security Fund to include pensioners and pensionable citizens and residents of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis began on December 15th. Currently, the program, the initiative continues to pay out to pensioners and recipients, and that program is said to be ongoing. In other news, in terms of the murder toll for St. Kitts and Nevis ended the murder toll at the number 12, 11 for St. Kitts and 1 here at Nevis. And that concludes the December 2022 segment of our national news segment. Do join us online at our website at vonradio.com, visit our Facebook page at Von Radio or our Von Radio YouTube channel for this year in review and other stories. When we come back, Ms. Donella Thompson will present to you the highlights in the regional news.
ATM lines to withdraw cash. Use your national debit or black cards to complete a wide variety of transactions at supermarkets, variety stores, gas stations, pharmacies, and more. Shop online at the most popular websites and stores for quality brands using your national debit or black cards. And take back your time to enjoy all the things that you love to do. Remember, instead of waiting in long ATM lines to withdraw cash, use your National Bank cards today.
National Bank, always here.
Welcome back, and here are the regional news highlights for 2022. The Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, reported on Wednesday, April 6th, that the Caribbean and the Americas registered thousands of new COVID-19 cases, and in some places, infections were still increasing. The Americas in particular registered more than 620,000 new COVID-19 cases. The Caribbean Examinations Council, CXC, pushed back CAPE and CSEC sit-ins by 3 weeks after regional outcries from the pandemic and other related setbacks in several meetings. Results were thus released between late August and early September. In more regional news, Caribbean people were projected to experience more food prices increases due to the Russian-Ukraine war on March 4th. On top of the deeply devastating human elements of war was the unavoidable global political and economic implications and potential impacts on global food security. In the Caribbean, economists and leaders reflected on how conflict in the breadbasket of Europe would affect an import-dependent region that is still reeling from the financial impacts of COVID-19 amidst supply chain disruptions, hikes in oil and commodity prices, rising shipping costs, and limited availability of vessels and containers. On April 29th, the leader of the British Virgin Islands, BVI, was arrested for alleged drug smuggling and money laundering in the U.S. Premier Andrew Foy was detained in Miami by U.S. agents posing as cocaine traffickers from a Mexican drug cartel. He agreed a $700,000 payment to allow traffickers to use BVI ports with an undercover informant, charges filed in the U.S. said. This resulted in Dr. Natalio Suade Wheatley being sworn in as the new Premier of the British Virgin Islands, a few hours after the House of Assembly passed a 10-1 no-confidence resolution evoking the appointment of Andrew Foy as Premier of the British Overseas Territory on May 6th. Out of Dominica, the ruling Dominica Labour Party, DLP, returned to power on Tuesday, December 6th general elections, even as 2 independent candidates won constituencies in the 21-seat parliament following a boycott by the main opposition political parties. Meanwhile, the Dominican government says in mid-November it expected to table legislation that will give effect to the establishment of a marijuana industry by next year. In Antigua and Barbuda, some 600 former Liat employees celebrated the news that they could proceed with court action against the Antigua and Barbuda government on the eve of the second anniversary of their termination, as they seek to get millions of dollars in financial entitlements they claim are owed to them on April 1st. News of the breakthrough came on Thursday, May 31st, from Barbadian pilot Neil Cave, who along with 4 of his colleagues had filed a suit in the Antigua High Court challenging the constitutionality of Section 5641A of the Companies Amendment Act 2020. In response to a court ruled in favor of Liat pilots, "We are not afraid of going to court," were the words of Lionel Hurst, the Chief of Staff in the Prime Minister's office in Antigua and Barbuda. Some 600 of these pilots were seeking to get millions of dollars in severance and other payments entitled them. Out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, 5 female health workers, 3 professionals, and 2 auxiliary workers were on Sunday, January 24th, in police custody in connection with the discovery of 54 kilograms of cocaine at the Awea Clinic. The quantity of cocaine was found Saturday, 22nd, hours after police began an operation that netted 3 kilograms of the Category A drug at a home in the North Windward Village. A reliable source told SVG Eyewitness News that the cocaine was found in a barrel in a locked room at the clinic. Out of Grenada, according to results from the Parliamentary Electoral Office, PEO, on June 23rd, Grenada's political leader, Declan Mitchell, of the National Democratic Congress, NDC, led his party to win 9 seats, with the remaining 6 seats going to the new National Party, NNP, led by Dr. Keith Mitchell. In the Bahamas, the schools in the Bahamas reopened on January 24th using a hybrid face-to-face learning environment. The Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training established a committee to find thousands of students who did not attend classes for almost 2 years. In February, the Ministry of Education, Research and Planning Task Force identified and located 843 of 4,000 students. Additionally, diagnostic testing was done on all students to determine the extent of learning loss. In the USVI, U.S. Virgin Islands Governor Albert Bryan Jr., who is the ninth elected governor of the USVI, won on Tuesday, November 15th, a gubernatorial race and cemented his legacy as a 2-term leader. Out of Barbados, 18-year-old Khalil Kotiwala, who was poised to become Barbados' youngest senator, did not get the opportunity. Prime Minister Miamor Motley was disheartened by the fact that the 2/3 majority needed to change the constitution to allow for a teenage senator was not achieved in the upper house in mid-March. And in Trinidad and Tobago, more than 2,000 Venezuelans who went to Trinidad and Tobago seeking a better life returned home in February as the cost of living in the country increased. Since Trinidad and Tobago reopened its borders on July 17, 2021, thousands of migrants have left of their own free will. The borders were closed in March 2020 as one of the measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19. And that's the regional news highlights. The international highlights comes up next by Miss Shamika Budgen.
Fresh Look Paint and Tile Sale. Give your home a fresh look with a fresh coat of paint and a fresh set of tiles. From Holtzwood's Building and Event Center's 25% off Fresh Look Paints and Tile Sales Event. Yes, come to Holtzwood's Building and Event Centers today and get fresh savings of 25% off all paints and tiles store-wide. Come and give your home a fresh new look with fresh savings and fresh new colors. Fresh new piles of tiles in all styles with a fresh 25% off store-wide on all paints and tiles at Holtzwood's Building and Event Center. Give your home a fresh start with a fresh new look with fresh new colors, fresh new piles of tiles in all styles, and fresh quality paint at Horswood's Building and Event Center. Fresh Look 25% off paints and tiles sales event. See store for details.
Welcome back, and here are the highlights for our international news segment for 2022. On February 24, 2022, Russian President Vladimir Putin directed his forces to launch a major multi-pronged invasion of Ukraine. The broad scope of the assault, which Putin termed a special military operation, suggested Moscow's objectives were to quickly seize Kiev, presumably overturning the government and occupy as much as the eastern half of 2/3 of the country. The Russian army gained ground in southern Ukraine, but it failed to take Kiev. By late March, Russian forces were in retreat in the north. In October, the head of the World Bank has warned that Russia's invasion of Ukraine could cause a global recession as the price of food, energy, and fertilizer jumped. David Malpass told a U.S. business event that it is difficult to see how we would avoid a recession. Afghanistan faces a deepening human rights crisis under Taliban rule that is leading to authoritarianism, a UN expert warned in the final quarter of 2022. In his first report to the Human Rights Council, UN Special Reporter on the situation of human rights in Afghanistan, Richard Bennett, catalogues human rights abuses under the Taliban since it seized control of the country in August 2021, including a severe rollback of the rights of women and girls, reprisals targeting opponents and critics, attacks on minorities, including Hazara Shia, and the clampdown on the media. On January 30th, Miss USA 2019 Chelsea Christ died in an apparent suicide in Manhattan. She was only 30. New York police report that Christ jumped from a Manhattan apartment building on that same morning. She was pronounced dead at the scene. In a statement, her family said that they were in devastation and in great sorrow. In late January, thousands of protesters against a vaccine mandate for truckers across the U.S.-Canada border brought Canada's capital city, Ottawa, to a standstill. Truckers were protesting against COVID restrictions. Called the Freedom Convoy, the weeks-long protests forced trade disruptions of two of the world's biggest car makers, Ford and Toyota, at an estimated costing of $300 million per day. In February, the mayor of Canada's capital, Jim Watson, declared a state of emergency, describing the city as completely out of control, with demonstrators outnumbering the police. In early February, the University of California has agreed to pay nearly $250 million U.S. to over 200 women who allege they were sexually assaulted by a campus gynecologist. Multiple women accused the university's Los Angeles site, UCLA, of deliberately hiding James Heaps's alleged sexual abuse of patients. Mr. Heaps was based at the UCLA Student Health Center during his 35-year career between 1983 and 2018. On February 21st, Australia reopened its borders to vaccinated tourists and other visa holders for the first time in almost 2 years. Australia has had some of the world's strictest border controls throughout the coronavirus pandemic. In April, French Emmanuel Macron has won 5 more years as France's president after a convincing victory over rival Marine Le Pen, who nevertheless secured the far-right's highest share of the vote yet. The centrist leader told jubilant supporters at the foot of the Eiffel Tower that now the election was over, he would be a president for all. He is the first sitting president in 20 years to be re-elected. And that brings us to the end of our 2022 International News Highlights. Stay with us for the latest in sports.
Welcome back, and now here are the highlights for sports for 2022. In local sports, CPS, that's the Charleston Primary School, won the 2022 Primary Schools Football Tournament. The grand finals of the Primary School Football Tournament was held at the ETW Park in Charleston, and the placements are as follows. CPS, who are the 2022 champions, second place went to the St. James's Primary School, and third place in Thomas's Primary School. Still in the local sports, the Leeward Islands Cricket Board LICB on December 6th awarded its first and second gold jackets to Nevis's Elcomida Willett and Dr. Sir Anderson Roberts of Antigua respectively at its first annual gold jacket award ceremony held at the Moorings Marina in the British Virgin Islands. In swimming, that's locally, after a 2-year hiatus, the St. Kitts and Nevis Cross Channel Swim was held on March 27th as it celebrated its 20th anniversary since its inception. The Cross Channel Swim was cancelled in 2021 and 2020 due to the restrictions on sporting activities because of the COVID-19 pandemic. More than 130 swimmers came from around the world to support the event. Meanwhile, representing Nevis, Sadiki Phipps featured in a weightlifting competition which was all part of the powerlifting competition hosted by the St. Kitts Nevis Weightlifting Association. That competition was held on October 7th in the heart of Bastille, St. Kitts. In cricket highlights, St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots men and Barbados Royals women were crowned champions in the inaugural Sky X60 after 2 thrilling matches at Warner Park, St. Kitts in August. Meanwhile, India beat England to win the 5th Under-19 World Cup with a victory in Antigua on Saturday, February 5th. The scores were England under 19 189 all out off of 44.5 overs. India under 19 195 for 6 off of 47.4 overs. India won by 4 wickets. Still in cricket, legendary Australia leg spinner Shane Warne died this year of a suspected heart attack, aged 52. His management company said Warne had been found unresponsive in his villa in Koh Samui, Thailand on March 4th. Warne took 708 test wickets, the second most of all time in 145 matches across a stellar 15-year career. In football highlights, Argentina won the FIFA World Cup 2022 and they defeated France, who was the last World Cups champion, that's in 2018. Still in football, an explosion of joy ripped through Argentina as its football team won the World Cup on December 18th. Still in football, in mid-December, FIFA stated that they will stage an expanded Club World Cup featuring 32 men's teams from June 2025, according to its president Gianni Infantino, football world's governing body. Cristiano Ronaldo reached another landmark in his illustrious career by scoring his 700th club goal in Manchester United's win at Everton in early October. The goal took the 37-year-old Portugal forward's tally to 144 for United across his 2 spells at the club. In basketball, the Golden State Warriors were the NBA 2022 champions this time around. They defeated, that's actually still in basketball highlights, Denver Nuggets center Nikola Jokic achieved much in the year 2022. First, Jokic became the first player in NBA history to register 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds and 500 assists in a single season as a 122-109 victory over the Memphis Grizzlies saw the Denver Nuggets secure a playoff spot in April 7th early this year. That's before the NBA Finals. In athletics, double Olympic sprint champion Elaine Thompson-Herah was named the 2022 Laureus World Sportswoman of the Year in late April. She is the first Jamaican woman to win the award. This was Thompson-Herah's second nomination, and she said that she was humbled at the achievement. In netball, St. Vincent and the Grenadines were crowned the champions of the 2022 OECS ECCB International Netball Series in late February. St. Vincent and the Grenadines emerged the top team after 6 days of intense competition at Windsor Park. In tennis highlights, sport superstar and businesswoman Serena Williams appeared to announce her plans to retire in August after the US Open, but she then revealed in October she is not retired. During a talk at the TechCrunch Disrupt conference, Williams said the chances of her returning to the sport are very high. The legendary tennis player eventually retired from the tennis sport. And that brings us to the end of our sports highlights for the year 2022. The general weather forecast is next. Welcome back. The weather tonight, partly cloudy with a 40% or moderate chance of passing showers. The weather tomorrow, partly cloudy with a 40% or moderate chance of passing showers. The winds are 19 to 33 kilometers per hour and gusting to 50 kilometers per hour. The seas are 1.5 to 2.1 meters or 5 to 7 feet with northerly swells reaching 1.5 meters. A high surf and small craft advisories are in effect. The sunrise tomorrow will be at 6:40 a.m. And that's how we wrap up this year's edition of the Year in Review. We here at the Eastern Caribbean's Powers Von Radio wish to take this time to wish everyone a blessed and prosperous and Christ-filled New Year when it comes.
When VON vibrates, the whole Caribbean must shake.
8:60 a.m. The Powerhouse.
The evening time has now moved on to 7:33.